are lucky to be joined by James DeMone, who is a constable with the Lethbridge Police Service. He played 55 games with the Canucks AHL affiliate, the Manitoba Moose, in 2005-2006, and retired from professional hockey in 2007. He's now in his 11th year as a member of the Lethbridge Police Service and is currently a constable with the Lethbridge Police Service Canine Unit. Police service dog Arco is a Belgian Malinois who has served the Lethbridge Police alongside Constable DeMone for 7 years. And as I said, without further ado, Constable DeMone. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this thing working? Well, thank you for having me here this afternoon. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how this is going to go over. These dogs are mostly meant to play outside, and so I apologize for rearranging your lunch. I think it's just in the best interest here because he may not last more than 5 minutes, as you can see. Good boy. Great, so as mentioned, my name is Jim DeMone. I'm a constable with the City Police here and been so for 11 years. In 2011, I ran through the tryout process and was selected for the Canine Unit. I apologize for the obedience here. This is terrible, but it's kind of funny at the same time. I was selected for the Canine Unit, and so I was lucky enough to be paired together with Arco here, who's a Belgian Malinois, who's going to be 10 years old here in January, which kind of surprises some people because he looks so young and fit, and he looks like a puppy a little bit. Okay, let's. Good. Sorry about that. So in 2011, yeah, I was paired up with Arco. It's an instant bonding process where you're given an animal who's come over from Europe. He was brought over from Holland in the beginning of 2011 and held at one of our there's a police dog broker that we use down just outside of Boston, and so I was paired up with him, and his sole purpose, and my sole purpose, is to take care of him. And so you feed him every day, you walk him every day, and you start developing a bond before you go into 4 months in-house training, where we teach them all the police things, you know, like tracking and things like that, which he already has a foundation for, but we just fine-tune it so that he can meet the criteria that passes the provincial standard. So since July 2011, when he was brought over to me in the summertime there, we've been together this entire time. So a lot of people don't get to see the Canine Unit. They see our vehicles driving around. You guys are usually sleeping while we're working, and we're happy to do so. So what does the Canine Unit do for the people of Lethbridge? Quite a few things, actually. We have a number of different profiles that we need to fulfill. The major one that we do is tracking, and tracking is where somebody maybe commits an offense, they do a break and enter, or they steal something, and they flee, and we need to find that person. And human beings are not trained well enough to smell the sidewalk and try to figure out which way a person has gone. But these dogs have been used for a long time to do just such. So what they do is they're trained to follow human decomposition, human odor that falls off of everybody's skin follicles that flake off of them every minute of the day. So I bet you didn't know that in every minute your body sheds about 25,000 skin cells. And each one of those skin cells has bacteria on it, or microorganisms, that are eating that skin cell, decomposing it. That creates heat and odor, and that creates an odor that the dog is able to decipher from other odors around. There, come here. Off. Enough. So he follows that scent from the weakest to the strongest point, and oftentimes there is a person hiding in a bush at the end of that track, and oftentimes there's nothing. He got in a car, he got on a bicycle, he got into a building, things like that, and we're unable to find that person, but sometimes we find evidence and things like that along the way. So tracking, that's one of our biggest profiles, our biggest jobs that we do, and we've been doing it for quite some time. The other things that we do are evidence searches, okay, or area searches, or searching for people, okay? So oftentimes we'll get insecure buildings or whatnot, and we'll go and we'll clear it with the dog, because he can use his sense of smell to find people who are hiding in the building. And the best thing about that is it provides a level of officer safety, so that we're not going into the building and being ambushed in a dark corner or things like that. Right? You being good now? Good. Here. There you go. There you go. Okay. Off. Good. Good boy. It's like having a kid. He's better behaved than my kids, actually. So tracking, evidence searching, people searching, open air searching, things like that are all jobs that the Canine unit does. One of the biggest ones is just the presence of a police dog. A lot of people are afraid of dogs. Psychologically, people don't want to be bitten by dogs. So when we attend calls where there's a risk of fight or officer safety, more often than not, all it takes is a dog barking from the truck or the dog just sitting right here staring at a bad guy, and he gives up pretty easily, which is good, right? Because then we have an easy conclusion to a file. We don't have to go on the fight with anybody. Nobody gets hurt, us or the bad guy, and we're able to carry on with our day. So what else do we do? Hey? He's done this so many times, he kind of knows what's going on, so he knows the treats are coming out of the pocket. Yeah, you just suckering me in. So training. 4 months of in-house training. These dogs come, Arco, he came from Holland, but they come from all over Europe, the Czech Republic, Holland, Germany, all over the place. And there's a major dog sport in Europe called Schützen that some of you may be aware of. And Schützen is basically like a civilian police dog trials that all these breeders teach these puppies and young dogs to go through, and brokers go over there and they buy these dogs and they bring them back over to North America to fulfill contracts with police agencies, US military, border services, things like that. So he did have a foundation in tracking, he did have a foundation in searching and finding human odor and things like that. And like I said, we just fine-tune it a little bit when he comes over here so that he can fit the certification. The best way to train, and I don't know, there's probably people who have trained dogs in here before, is that we use their two biggest drives, which are food and either a ball or a tug. And those dogs want that ball and they want that tug so badly because they love to play tug with you, they love to chase it, and they like to treat it like prey. So we treat that just like cash. And when they do a job for us, we reward them with that cash. And just like that, they're so sensitive, yeah, and so smart. Yeah, come on, here, Pelican, here. Ah, good. They're so sensitive and so smart that they realize very quickly how to get the cash out of your pocket. And then they want to do nothing but good for you all the time. They want to do that job as quickly as possible to shortcut their way to your pocket to get that tug out of their pocket. And I brought his tug here. So this is like an old, ratty, ripped up, stinky, disgusting thing that he loves. And I control him with this. Or with treats the odd time, because he likes the treats that he found in our house when I let him in our house last year. So we use this all the time to get what we want. It starts with things that are as little as just heeling, teaching him to sit, teaching him to down, teaching him to recall, things like that. Those are the very preliminary steps of your training, because that helps build the bond and it helps to tell the dog who the boss is, and he's happy to have a boss and do work for a good boss. Once we start getting all those steps, then we start to add and get creative and see how much further we can push them and see how much more stuff we can get them to do just by using a tug and just adding onto that basic training, obedience, and recalls and things like that. So it's pretty neat. We've gotten to a point over the years now where I can use, instead of words, I just use little noises, little whistles, little clicks to make him do what I want. Hand signals, things like that. Things that are all important to me as a canine handler, things that I think I may need as a canine handler to be able to go into a building, for example, that's dark or whatever, and just make a couple of noises and he does what I want him to do. That keeps me safe. The bad guy doesn't know what I'm trying to get my dog to do. The bad guy doesn't even know there is a dog half the time because I'm not calling him by name and things like that. So that puts us at the advantage, and that helps us out tremendously. Aside from that, I'm just trying to think here what else we want to talk about. We can add questions here while I'm talking as well. Does anybody have any questions just off the top here about anything at all about Canine? Yes, right here.
What is the dog worth?
I'm sorry?
Cost-wise?
What is he worth? Wow. They're pretty expensive. Based on, so the price is all based on how many different profiles they can fit. Okay. Here in Lethbridge, we do require top-end dogs that can fit a number of profiles, including being dual-purpose certified, which means that he can search for drugs or be certified in drug detection. The higher amount of profiles the dog has, the more they cost. There are dogs that are just very, very good in 1 or 2 profiles, and we'll get them and we'll start our in-house training. And we've had to send them back because they fail tracking or they fail a couple other things. And those dogs are still very good dogs, but they get repurposed to other agencies or other outlets that can use them. So for example, in my class, we had Arco, and then we had another dog by the name of Arno. And Arno was smaller than Arco, who's a smaller dog to begin with. He was very small, very compact. He had excellent biting ability, so his apprehension ability, and he was very obedient, but he couldn't track worth a whatever. Like, he was just awful. So, and that's okay, he just can't do that. It's just not what he can do. So we have to send him back, and we got a new dog named Emos, who did excellent, and he's still working with us right now. Arno got turned around and repurposed to the US Navy SEALs. And so he's a dog that he's very compact, he can be attached to a harness, he can jump out of an airplane, and he can bite people. And so there's purposes to all these dogs, we just got to find the best spot for him. So a dog like Arno, that's where he goes, and I'm assuming he's doing a very, very good job down there for the military. Oh, do I need to talk closer? I'm sorry. So as far as costs go, a dog like Arco, you're looking at about $10,000 US just to purchase him. And then there's the cost of us having to send handlers down there for a week or so to test dogs and pick the right dogs. And then you have the cost of taking a police officer off the street once he's been selected to train for 4 months before he even hits the street and start working. So there is importance to having these dogs for a long time. My first shift on the street after the 4 months in-house training was Boxing Day 2011, so I'm coming up on 7 years complete here on the street. I am slated to stay in the unit for the rest of 2019, so I'll come out at next Christmas. So you get about 8 years, depending. You get dogs with hip problems, you get dogs with cancer, you get dogs with all sorts of problems that dogs have. And sometimes they only last 5 years or 4 years. And then the service has to kind of fill that in and find another dog. We have 4 dogs in the Lethbridge Police Service. There are 4 patrol teams that work 24 hours a day in the city, and we just assign 1 dog to each one of those patrol teams. And we follow that schedule almost the same. The patrol guys, they'll work 2 day shifts from 6 or 7 a.m. till 6 or 7 p.m. And then they work 2 night shifts from 6 or 7 p.m. till 6 or 7 a.m. We start our day shifts technically at 2 p.m. and we go till 2 a.m. So that means that every night from 6 or 7 p.m. until 2 a.m., there's 2 of us working. And that's become useful because we will have instances where we have a robbery or something like that on one side of the city, and 1 dog is being used there. And while that file is being looked after, we'll have an assault or another robbery or something like that on the other side of town, and we have to send another dog over there. So it is pretty useful, and they are kept quite busy here. I was trying to think of some numbers while I was on my way over here. When you're getting to the end of the career, you start looking back to see what you've actually accomplished. And so in 7 years, I think I figured out I've worked about 800 canine shifts, and I've attended about 4,300 calls for service, and Arco has come out or been deployed or used in just over 500 of those calls. So if you take that $10,000 and divide it by all that, It's not overly expensive, maybe, I don't know. So that's quite a bit. So I'm pretty impressed with what we've been able to do in our time here together. One of the other things I forgot to mention that we do is that we are assigned to the tactical team. We're not tactical team members, but we do train with the tactical team. 2 of our dogs are deployed for every one of our TAC calls. And so just through observation and being around that team for quite a while now, I've learned quite a bit about that, and we're able to help those guys out. And we usually do, building searches, or we'll clear the house once we've had people exit the home or things like that. We'll go in there and we'll search for people who are hiding, things like that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's his working life? Where do you retire into, or do you continue to do it as a pet?
Yeah, so he's been living at my house since I got him. When you get these dogs, the city builds you a 10 by 12 dog run. No, off. Hey, Falikin. Good. Come here. Come on. Here. Off. Good. You get a 10 by 12 concrete dog run. Hey, come here, stupid dog. Off. We don't reward bad behavior. So he's got a dog run with a full roof on it. They have a really nice insulated heated dog house. So even when it's minus 30, he's roasty toasty in there. I'll bring him inside when it's minus 30 outside, because he'll just spend days cuddled up in a little box basically. So I like to get him out just to get him some stimulation. The commitment to the canine unit is 5 years or the life of the dog. So generally speaking, we got Arco, he was 2.5 years old when I got him. So he's gonna be a little bit on the older end of age here when we get to the end next year. We've had him as young as 12 or 16 months. And so 5 years of the life of the dog. So if you pass that 5-year threshold, and nothing, he hasn't been hit by a car or what, he's still working. As soon as he's done, I'm done. We get 1 dog and then we're out of the unit. Unlike the RCMP, for instance, who once you're in the canine unit, you're in the unit for life. Now the difference being those members don't usually get into the canine unit until about year 10 or 11 in their career. So they really only work about 2 dogs, and then they're retiring anyway at their 25 years. When he is done, so next year we'll have completed 8 years, like I mentioned. And then once we retire, I will buy him from the city for $1, just to assume the liability. And he will still have that dog run and stuff in my backyard, but the gate will be open all the time. And he can just have full reign of the backyard. And he'll come in the house if he figures out how to behave. So like 2-3 minutes at a time, and then I'll send him back out. And he gets to just be a dog. The city continues to pay for their vet bills and their dog food. So it's like a little bit of a canine pension that he gets. And he's doing pretty good. He's really healthy. He has no issues with, arthritis or anything like that. So I think he's going to last, give me a good 3 or 4 years or whatever after we retire, and he can just be a dog, which I think is pretty cool too, because he's worked a lot. It's a stressful job for them. They don't know what they're going into all the time. They don't have the ability to listen to the radio and know the call that they're going to. They just are laying down in the back of the truck and the door opens and they're expected to listen and do what they're told. And so he's done a very, very good job for me over these last years. Yes, sir.
How many different breeds do you use in police work, and how early do you start training?
Well, yeah, the question was, how many different breeds do we use? And what was the second part, sir?
How early do you start?
And how early do we start training them? So Arco is a Belgian Malinois. We have had German Shepherds in our unit. The canine unit's been around in Lethbridge for 54 years, by the way. I don't think a lot of people know that. There was a couple of years, I think, where they didn't have a dog, but there's been 54 years where they have had at least one dog. We have used German Shepherds, and we have used Belgian Malinois. You're buying these dogs through private market, so it all comes down to what's more popular and what's being bred more and what's more available. When we go to our broker down near Boston there to pick our dogs, we could go down there and have 6 or 7 dogs that broker feels fits all the profiles that we need. So we'll test all those dogs. If one of them's a German Shepherd and outdoes all the other ones, we'll take a German Shepherd. There's different approaches to training in German Shepherds. We've done both of them with Mals and Shepherds, and so we have no problem doing that. But those two would be kind of the most popular breeds. I know in the 90s they used to use different kinds, but it just doesn't work out with all the profiles that you need. As far as when you start training them, over in Europe, they'll start training just as little puppies. They get them training on bite pads and things like that, and they get them driven and that prey drive built up on biting it's like a canvas pillow or things like that, or they'll use PVC pipe, things like that, and that builds up the drive in these dogs. Yeah, now you're gonna go to sleep. That's okay, then he won't bounce around. And so, like I said before, we've gotten them as young as 12 months and as old as 3 years old, really. And once they come over, they have that foundational training that from the Schutzen training that they've received, and we just start working on building on that to fit the certification. So we don't want to get them too old because we do have to think about cost and how many years you're going to get out of the dog. Here. But we do take them quite young. Yeah, here you go, Af. So there. You know what, I think right now I'm gonna take 2 minutes and I'm just gonna go do a little bit of obedience with him right in the front because he wants to, that's why. We'll just say that. And I'll just show you a little bit of obedience. Being that he was from Holland, we did stick with the Dutch commands, but I apologize to anybody in here who truly speaks Dutch, because it doesn't sound Dutch. It's more of a butchered English, Dutch English. I just make noises, I think, and he listens. Yeah, there you go.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much to Constable DeMone and Arco as well for all of their work in the community.